Gestures are easy. Let's use them, even if we're on Zoom. Any comments? Okay. Now, in college speeches, you are not just doing the 5th grade paper where you act like you're the expert who knows everything. You sound smarter because you're using other sources that you can quote and say, and this says so too, and this authoritative source says so too, or this one expands what I'm saying. Hear the example? So make sure you do your research. I've actually got a copy of this Aristotle on Rhetoric and had to spend an entire class, online graduate class, tearing that apart and reading it. Important to the field of communication, this whole on rhetoric. Now, some people say, well, can I cite myself? No, you can't say, I say blah, 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 or I had, but you can, in your credibility statement, say, here's how I connect, so you should be thinking I'm an authority. I'm worthy of speaking about this. You can add personal stories for your main points, but you can't cite yourself. I'm about to go to full screen. Did you notice how I cued myself to remind myself to go to full screen? If you're not looking at the PowerPoint right now, please do. I wrote go to full screen right here as an organizing moment to say, Morphew, you're going to be using some transitional slides and you want them to build. So you need to be in full screen to do that. This is a great technique if you're making a slide share, a PowerPoint or a Google Slides. And if there's other ones, you guys can tell me about them. I always learn new things when I have a class. Okay, so I am going to go to full screen and tell you about how to say cites and get you to do some stuff. In order to give you an example about source authority, I have thought about an example of the 5 stages of grief. I used this example because everybody had gotten sucked into only online last term. And I had gone to Zoom and we were all being like totally upheavaled. You know, I don't know if that's that's an adjective, but we were like all in a mess. And it was similar to having the stages of grief because we had to transition and change. The 5 stages of grief we're going to talk about as I show you this example is cited. This is the source I used. And all that information I could put in the bottom of an outline, not with a bullet point, put it in the proper, hanging indent and double spaced and Times New Roman. I could do that. Let's talk about how we can say a cite using Dr. Christina Gregory's 5 stages of grief. The Kubler-Ross grief cycle was made by some researchers. And here is a citation I could say. Researchers Kubler and Ross explain that we can remember the 5 stages of grief or loss with the acronym DABDA. And by the way, if somebody dies, if you lose a pet, if you quit a bad habit that you're used to using all the time, you'll go through these stages. And it's not that you're going to go through them in sequence. You could jump back and forth, but these have been researched that these are the stages you will go through. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so here's the 3 parts. I've highlighted researchers Kubler and Ross. That's who that doctor was talking about. That's the authority or the source. Then you put a verb in there. Or you can say, according to researchers Kubler and Ross, we can remember the 5 stages of grief or loss with DABDA. But you've got a verb in there, explain. See how they're highlighted? Thank you, Stephanie. And then you put whatever the fact is. So I've got that highlighted there. I'm back. Did you see the three parts? Source, verb, or you can start with according to and not put a verb in there, and fact. Okay, let's go back. Are you seeing my PowerPoint? Okay. Oh, it's making me do this part. Okay. It's not moving forward. There we go. So here are some verbs. I took a list in 2017 from the library, from our library, and I put these words in. Let me see if it'll allow me to fix exam. Nope, go back. Sorry. I have a capital in there I don't like. I gotta fix that. So you could use any of these verbs. Now, for anybody that's writing it down like a crazy person, you actually have that list in the PowerPoint PDF attached to news. Or you could find it by looking at the organization stuff on our momentum. Okay? Grab a few of those words and write them down because you're going to do something here in a second. And you can always use the word says, by the way, of course. Usually we don't use the word says in a formal speech unless we are like talking about an interview. Okay. I told you there were three parts. You can actually move those parts around. You can say the source name at the beginning of the sentence, at the middle of the sentence, or at the end of the sentence that you're saying out loud. Here's an example. And I hope you are doing the confidence and anxiety discussion because Amy Cuddy is an awesome researcher who has a viral TED Talk from 2012. And it talks about ways to physically, chemically raise your confidence. In her 2012 TED Talk, Amy Cuddy suggests is how you would do your cite. Or I could put her name in the middle. Power posing before an interview, Cuddy demonstrates, enhances this. Power posing enhances your confidence level. And then I can put her name, and look on the last example I've given you here. I actually said who she was and why she was more credible. I say, fake it till you make it, summarizes Harvard American social psychologist, author and speaker, Amy Cuddy. Now that's a mouthful, but if you practiced it enough, you could say it well and smoothly. I haven't said it since last term. Is that clear? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you, and I see them nodding, so they got it. Verbalize if you don't. So I have some flashcards, and I want you to take the source, and I actually put the whole work cited. So you can just remember how I said Amy Cuddy's this social psychologist from Harvard. You can take some information from the really well-developed works cited, and you've got a fact on the other side, and I want you to say a citation. And if you're looking at the Zoom camera, you could also put in a gesture. All right. Pick out what you might say in your works, from the works cited. And I even put an annotation that those facts were also found in the law office of Edgar Snyder and Associates. You can steal the date. You can steal any of the words in there that's going to make sense. And I want you to write down how you would say this in a speech. This actually is from a student's speech. From her outline, and I got permission to use it and made a bunch of flashcards because she had a lot of cool cites. Does everybody have it written? I see some people still writing. All right, Bailey, I can't see you, but can you hear? Obviously you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Can you give me how you would say this citation? How you would say this cite?
Jessie Day says, okay, is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Jessie Day says nearly 330,000 injuries occur each year from accidents caused by texting while driving.
Excellent. Now, guys, I don't know who Jessie Day is or why that person's important. Did anyone else cite Jessie Day but add a little bit more? I can't see you. I need to verbalize. Whoops. Sorry. I've screwed up. I went ahead. Can someone verbalize a way to say that and tell a little bit about Jessie to give that person authority?
I said, according to Jessie Day's 2016 blog, nearly 330,000 injuries occur each year from accidents caused by texting while driving.
Well done. Now, let's see. I said something like that, but I also added what the blog was about. Did anybody do the whole text to ticket blog line? Because we don't, again, I think that you were much more specific that Jessie Day had a blog, and you even gave the date. That was kind of cool because that says, hey, it's recent. Did nobody use the text to ticket blog? How could that be said?
Could you hold on, I gotta fix our volume. Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you say, I said in Jessie Day's blog, text to ticket, nearly 330,000 injuries occur each year from accidents caused by texting while driving?
Okay, try that again and be very crisp with your words.
According to Jessie Day's blog, text to ticket, nearly 330,000 injuries occur each year from accidents caused by texting while driving.
Yeah, that'll work. Jessie Day, a blogger who wrote about texts. No, I don't know how else to say it, but you play with it, guys. Do you see how you can say the source and say, by the way you're saying it is showing that that's an authority. So you can play with these things. Let's try one more. Good job, Carly. Thank you. Flashcard number 10 from Kelsey's outline was that safer alternatives were just around the corner. And by the way, this speech was done in 2016. And she had a horrific accident while texting on 4th Street in Crossville. So, she wasn't like going fast. And she brought in her license plate that was all bent up, and she brought pictures and her ticket that the police gave her. And she had all this realia that she held up. And so that was interesting. She really did an awesome job. She added a lot of stories in there along with these facts. Okay, so this is Jake Fisher's. It is obviously an article from the New York Times, and that's said so when you do a cite, you can add an annotation at the bottom, and so I put them in parentheses, but this is just extra information. When I turn in my works cited, I don't have to have that extra annotation on there. But to me, as a learner or a speaker, it reminds me why is this Jake Fisher important? There's a few facts about him in there that you wouldn't just see if you had a regular works cited stopping after the date. So everybody write a sentence about how you would say this when you were in the middle of a speech. Okay, Sarah, what'd you write?
Can you guys hear me? Oh.
Yes, people around you, around Sarah, please turn your volume off for a minute.
Okay. According to Jake Fisher from How to Stop People from Texting While Driving, safer alternatives for driving and text are just around the corner, states that safer alternatives are just around the corner.
Okay, did you hear the repetition? The article name had the actual fact in it too, right? So when you practice that, you'll hear that and you'll be able to revise that in some way. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, how about Nick, was that you or Caden that did the last time spoke up?
I did.
Okay, Caden, I don't see Nick here. I was going to get one of the guys, but you did last one. Let's try.
I don't care to do this one too.
All right, do this
You
one.
want?
You did a good job. Go ahead. Y'all did it. Whoops, I did it again. Sorry, just a moment. Okay, go ahead.
I said, Jake Fisher's New York Times article named How to Stop People from Texting While Driving says, safer alternatives are just around the corner.
Good. Did anybody use the idea that this New York Times author is also the director of auto testing for Consumer Reports? I put that information in there, and if you heard this in a speech, Jake Fisher, a New York Times author who also is director of auto testing for Consumer Reports, suggests that there are safer alternatives just around the corner. Doesn't that sound authoritative? We understand why this guy, so we got his name, but now we know why he is an authority. You guys may not be familiar with Consumer Reports, but they literally have magazines and online stuff. They have for decades been an eminent purveyor of what is the best dishwasher, what is the best car, what is the best dish soap, what is the best internet, and what they do is they get all these different ones and they test them rigorously, and then they put out these charts that say all the different qualities and what they're good at, and they use red circles and green circles and black circles and whatever. So it's kind of important for you to share why these guys are an authority, not just say Jake Fisher says, okay? It's better to say Jake Fisher says safer alternatives are just around the corner than just to say safer alternatives are just around the corner. But it's even better if we know as listeners why Jake is an authority. So look for that kind of information and see how you can fuse it in at the beginning, middle, or end of a citation in your outline and in your speech. What questions do you have? Clarifications? Okay. That's one of the hardest parts of doing my speeches. I can't tell you how many students say, I forgot to say my speeches or my citations. There are many tricks for remembering them. What can you imagine some of those tricks are?
Do what you did and add a cue.
Totally. Put it on a slide. Slides can help guide you. What else?
You could add a picture of the person who said it in your slide, and that'll make you remember to say it. Absolutely.
Visuals, you know, I told you Generation Z and even my generation, you know, I'm a boomer, right? Maybe even older than a boomer. My generation is even being more visually influenced. Society changes as technology changes. So yeah, that's a great idea. Do you ever hear of the old-fashioned way that speakers remember? Index cards. There were several people guilty today of, and I think maybe one or two yesterday, of reading from the screen. We can see when your eyes go to the left or to the right or down. And one method to overcome that is to actually have cue cards with the bullet points so that it's not just you reading every single word. It is better to engage with your audience than it is to make sure that you phrased it exactly. If you recall yesterday, I said, it's totally okay to say, I'm going to read this quote just to make sure I get it precisely correct, and then hold you, you know, and then read it. Or look down on your screen and read it. When I was at UT, I was in a speech contest and I had made it to like the top 7. And I would write my things on here, but I would draw eyeballs with eyelashes, 2 little eyeballs with eyelashes to remember and look up. And look up. It helps, okay? So cue cards or some sort of thing. One student, when we were in our classroom and we had 5 Apple TVs, you guys in Cumberland can come over to room 139 and see me when we go back to campus. We have 5 Apple TVs, sort of like the Campbell room with all those TVs that Val Robinson does her classes in. One guy said, can we, if we're standing in the front of the room, there's a TV in the far back, can we put our script like a teleprompter on that? I said, absolutely you can. If you figure out how to do it. You know, you have to get the iPad and you have to connect with it, and you do that, you totally can do a teleprompter of some sort. You guys create solutions to make it work. The best way to do it is to practice. Best way to remember your speech is to practice. Okay? Now, ladies, gentlemen, I've got one final screen, so it looks like we're going to get out a little bit early today. What other question? And then I can stay here and do office hours if anybody wants a little hand holding or to share their documents or whatever you want to do. What further clarifications do you need? Can I offer?
When is our informative speech due?
If you look at the course outline, day 1 through 10, I believe it says Tuesday. On Monday, we're going to have the librarian come in. The head librarian is going to come in and guide us through using the library resources. And you can immediately begin to look for things on your, you know, you can chat with the library. I've suggested with some people. So you can start looking now, but she's going to guide us through how to properly do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have
What's
a
so funny,
question.
Miss Stephanie? Just a second, Megan. What's going on in your life, Stephanie?
Oh, I'm just so sore from soccer yesterday, so it hurts to move.
Oh, what'd you do? Did you go play soccer?
Yeah.
You said? I figured that was a personal experience story made into a storytelling. Yeah. Are you Josefina?
No, it's my brother's name, but I changed it into a girl name.
Is he Jose?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Yes, Megan.
Is it okay if until we can go to like the library and get like a news article or something, if all of our sources for our paper are like websites, but we pulled an interview from one of the websites?
Yes, and research in college can be done with a lot of websites, but it really increases authenticity, and you'll be surprised what more you learn when you can physically go to a place. So consider that. What's your place? What's your group?
It's the Avalon Center, and I've emailed them twice and they still haven't emailed me back to get more information. And I emailed them, I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday.
Can you
Or
get
maybe Wednesday and Thursday. I'm sorry.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that. I noticed in my emails that Cumberland and Kenry have an email from David Lane. Did you guys see it? Okay, and I'm glad I get tagged in that. David's channel, his best media channel, is for texting to him, right? So sometimes I need to text him and remind him that a student has written something to him. And that's not a bad thing. That is knowing somebody's preferred channel. It's possible that Avalon best channel is phone calls.
Okay.
I'd call them.
Okay.
Have your good questions, and if they're too busy or you can only get the receptionist, you want to talk to the director, then I suggest that you say, may I set up an appointment to talk to the director on the phone?
Okay.
And
What if we actually interview someone from like the business we're doing? How do we? That's okay.
Perfect. How do you cite it, or what were you asking?
Like, yeah, because when like this stuff you showed us that you cited was like from like a resource. So what if it's like actually in person and it's just like you and that person?
Okay, let's do
Got
this fast. I'm going to confirm before I tell you this. It is called an interview. So you should be seeing my webpage for 079. I'm going to change that to Citefast. I have a little bookmark here and I'm just going to click on it. Citefast. And I see my name, so I'm logged into my account. If I go to webpage, book, journal, is there a place for interview? Yes. Interview. See interview? It will see, oh, and there you go. There's another answer. Is it a personal interview or an interview that's retrievable that you found on a website? Can you guys see that? Is it big enough? Or do I need to increase it? I'll just increase it there. So I clicked on interview over here, and you can either say, I went to that business and talked to that person, or I talked to that person on the phone, or you retrieved it from a line from a website. So great question, you guys. That's awesome. Okay. What else? What else?